On September 5, 2012, the quiet mountain roads of southeast France became the backdrop for a chilling discovery. British ex-RAF pilot Brett Martin was cycling through the French Alps when he stumbled upon a scene straight out of a nightmare. A BMW was awkwardly reversed into a secluded parking spot in the woods, its engine still running and tires spinning in the sand. Inside the car, Martin found a horrifying sight. 3 bodies, all shot execution style, with 2 shots to the forehead. The victims were Saad and Iqbal al-Hili, along with Iqbal's elderly mother, Suhaila al-Alaf. Nearby, 7-year-old Zainab al-Hili was seen severely injured, while 4-year-old Zina al-Hili remained hidden, miraculously unharmed. A local cyclist, Sylvain Mollier, had also been brutally gunned down in what appeared to be a senseless act of killing. Known as the Annecy Shootings, this shocking crime left 4 people dead and 1 injured, and to this day, it remains an unsolved mystery with no clear suspect or motive. Welcome to Bad Things, where we dig into the mystery of the Annecy Shootings. We'll dive into the most compelling theories and share our thoughts on what most likely happened to the people who were brutally murdered that day. On a sunny afternoon, September 5, 2012, British retiree Brett Martin decided to enjoy a leisurely bike ride through the landscape of Chevaline. As Brett cycled along, he soon found himself on a quiet, secluded road called Combe d'Ir, which was surrounded by dense forest. The road led to a small clearing, often used by hikers as a parking spot. Brett was familiar with the route and continued on, appreciating the serene environment. However, at around 3:55 p.m., something unusual caught his attention. In the middle of the road lay a racing bike. Before Brett could figure out what was going on, a young girl stumbled out of the trees, covered in blood, and collapsed on the ground, clearly in distress. With his background as a former Royal Air Force pilot and first aid experience, Brett quickly went to her aid. He placed her in the recovery position, doing his best to keep her calm. Nearby, he spotted a maroon BMW station wagon with its wheels spinning uselessly in the sand. It looked like the car had been trying to reverse urgently. Brett then also noticed a man lying in a pool of blood next to the car, clearly the cyclist he had passed earlier, and noticed bullet holes in the BMW's windows, adding to the horrifying scene. Inside the car, the scene was even more shocking. A middle-aged man had collapsed over the steering wheel, while 2 women, one elderly and the other middle-aged, lay motionless in the back seat. All 3 had been shot in the head. Understanding the severity of the situation, Brett tried to call for help, but discovered he had no cell service. Fearing the shooter might still be nearby, he made the tough choice to leave the injured girl and rush back to find help. Just minutes later, Brett came across a group of French hikers who were able to call emergency services. Paramedics and police arrived swiftly, and the girl was airlifted to the hospital in critical condition. She had been shot in the shoulder and severely beaten, leaving her with a traumatic brain injury. Tragically, the 4 adults at the scene were confirmed dead. The cyclist who had been shot was identified as 45-year-old Sylvain Mollier, a father of 3 who had been out exploring the cycling route. The occupants of the BMW were also identified: Saad al-Hili, a 50-year-old Iraqi-born British citizen, his wife Iqbal, and her elderly mother, Suhaila al-Alaf. The injured girl was Saad and Iqbal's 7-year-old daughter, Zainab. It was revealed later that the killer had first shot and killed Mollier before turning the gun on the family. Soon, a chilling discovery shocked everyone. Authorities discovered a second child hidden beneath her mother's skirt in the back seat of the BMW. 4-year-old Zina, Zainab's younger sister, had remained frozen in fear for 8 hours after the attack, only being found when police finally opened the car door. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that the al-Hili family had been camping nearby, enjoying a peaceful holiday before their lives were brutally cut short. The case was particularly tragic and evidence was scarce. The shooter had used a rare vintage Luger P06, a firearm from the 1920s, to carry out the murders. It was later revealed that 21 shots were fired at the moving car, with disturbing accuracy. 17 of the shots struck the victims, and none hit the car's frame or doors. 8 of those shots were direct headshots, showing the shooter's chilling precision. The crime scene was so secluded that even Brett, who arrived just minutes after the attack, didn't hear any gunshots, likely drowned out by the noise of a nearby rushing river. However, there were some clues from witnesses. 3 forestry workers reported seeing a large motorcycle near the scene shortly before the shooting. The rider, dressed in black and wearing a distinctive helmet, had passed by just as Sylvia Mollier and the Al-Hali family were traveling up the road. Another vehicle, a metallic grey BMW, was also seen speeding along the narrow road. Despite these leads, cracking the case proved incredibly challenging. The remote location, the precision of the attack, and the unclear motive left investigators with more questions than answers. While a random attack was considered, the careful and calculated nature of the killings pointed to something more deliberate. As the search for answers continued, the normally serene Lake Annecy area was shaken by the brutal crime that shattered its peaceful reputation. The investigation made one thing clear. The person behind this massacre was a skilled and ruthless shooter, intent on leaving no witnesses. The motive remained a mystery, leaving both French and British authorities grappling to understand what had happened that day in the French Alps. One haunting question stood out. What could drive someone to murder an entire family and a cyclist, yet spare 2 young children? As investigators delved into the Al-Hali family's past, they uncovered some unsettling details. During a search of the family's London home, police found that the locks had recently been changed, and a taser, illegal to own, was discovered. This raised questions about whether the family had feared for their safety. Saad Al-Hali, an engineer, had worked on sensitive projects in both Iraq and the UK. Shortly before the murders, he visited his father's Swiss bank account. Rumors suggested that Saad and his father had smuggled money out of Iraq for Saddam Hussein, though this was never proven. Meanwhile, attention quickly turned to Saad's brother Saeed, who was questioned about his whereabouts during the time of the murders. The brothers had been in a legal dispute over their late father's estate, which included over $1 million in a Swiss account. A Swiss prosecutor accused Saeed of attempting to access the funds illegally, adding to the suspicion. Despite being arrested for conspiracy to commit murder, Saeed was soon released and no concrete evidence ever linked him to the crime. The investigation continued, with several questions still to be answered. Another individual who emerged as a suspect in the Annecy shootings is Nordal Lalonde, a 34-year-old former soldier. Lalonde has also been implicated in several other crimes in the region, including the murder of an 8-year-old girl in August 2017. Additionally, he's linked to other unsolved cases, such as the disappearance of a 24-year-old near Lake Annecy in July 2017 and the mysterious vanishing of 2 men in 2011 and 2012. Despite the investigations, there's been no concrete connection between Lalonde and the Annecy shootings. Some think he might have been a serial killer operating in the area at that time, but there's no solid proof to back this up. The Annecy case continues to be a mystery, with investigators left with only theories. Although they know the type of gun used and that it was a single attacker, there's still no clear motive or strong suspect. However, as the investigation tangled through various suspects and theories, a new twist added even more mystery. What if Saad Al-Hali wasn't the real focus of the attack? While Saad was at the center of media attention, his wife Iqbal had a hidden story of her own. Although she claimed to be single on their marriage paperwork, Iqbal had been married before, In 1999, she wed Jimmy Thompson, an oil worker, and lived with him in Louisiana. There she adopted the name Kelly and enjoyed a more Western lifestyle. But after 18 months, she abruptly returned to Abu Dhabi, which might have been due to family pressure or homesickness. A curious twist occurred when Jimmy passed away from a heart attack on the very day Iqbal was killed. This coincidence sparked speculation, though no direct link was ever confirmed between their deaths. The hidden aspects of Iqbal's past and the timing of Jimmy's death led to further questions about what other secrets she might have had. Despite an FBI investigation and considerations of exhuming Jimmy's body, no evidence tied his death to the shootings in the French Alps. This coincidence only deepened the mystery, leaving many wondering about the full story behind Iqbal's concealed past. The Annecy shootings have left investigators puzzled for years, but when we examine the details, one scenario seems the most likely. The murder of Saad al-Hili was a planned professional hit. This wasn't a random attack or something done on impulse. The precision with which the killer acted, firing 21 shots with chilling accuracy, 17 of them hitting their targets, including several headshots, shows that this was the work of someone who knew exactly what they were doing. This wasn't just someone with a grudge or a random madman. This was a skilled person, likely hired for the job. So why would someone want Saad al-Hili dead? The answer might lie in his past. Saad was not just an ordinary man. He was an engineer who worked on sensitive projects in both Iraq and the UK. There were rumors that Saad and his father were involved in smuggling money out of Iraq during Saddam Hussein's time. Though these claims were never proven, they suggest that Saad could have been mixed up in dangerous dealings, possibly making him a target for revenge. The timing of the attack is also important. Saad had recently visited his father's Swiss bank account, raising questions about a large sum of money tied to their family's past. It's easy to imagine that someone, possibly connected to those shady financial dealings, wanted to make sure that Saad wouldn't be around to access or reveal anything. Adding to this is the fact that Saad was in the middle of a heated legal dispute with his brother over their late father's estate. Could someone have seen Saad as a threat to their own interests and decided to eliminate him to send a clear, unmistakable message? What makes this scenario the most believable is the sheer professionalism of the killing. The shooter left no witnesses, except for the two young girls who were spared, likely because they were too young to identify the killer. This kind of cold, calculated precision isn't the mark of a random attacker. It's the signature of a hitman. In the end, while many theories surround the Annecy shootings, the idea of a targeted professional hit on Saad al-Hili, driven by his shady past and the potential threats he posed to powerful interests, stands out as the strongest. It's a theory that connects the loose ends in a way that random violence or mistaken identity simply cannot. If you love our content and want to support the channel, feel free to check our web shop where you can find exclusive true crime merch brought to you by Bad Things.